Mazzy, celebration of a concert I saw 50 years ago last week, 1969.
I know that you have, 'cause there's magic in my eyes. I can see for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. Oh yeah. If you think that I don't know about the little tricks you play, and never see you when deliberately you put
Petra Hayden. I'm using this so I can keep the music on. This came out in 2005, and it's all a cappella version of Who's Sell Out. My friend Coleman turned me on to this, and Coleman will get mentioned in this video several times. We worked in record stores, but this album, 2005, Petra Hayden is a member of the Hayden triplets. She's also married to Jack Black, and she's the daughter of jazz bassist Charlie Hayden, and she put this album out after hearing this album for the first time. Bit of a novelty. It goes in small doses, but it's fun, and Coleman told me to get it, so I got it. Anyway, you know it because of, I mean, she really went all in there, right? So, 50 years ago, June 1969, I saw The Who for the first time, and I went to the Fillmore West in San Francisco for the first time. I went to this show. It was A.B. Sky opening, which I don't remember, so I'm thinking I might have missed the opening act. The Woody Herman and his orchestra. Big band, jazzy orchestra. Bill Graham put on amazing shows in terms of mixing up, fusing idioms of music and genres of music, and so great, right? This is is it David Singer? Yeah, David Singer designed this poster. He designed a lot of the 69 posters for the Fillmore West for Bill Graham. So anyway, great show. The Who performed the entire Tommy opera, and a few months later they played Woodstock, so you know exactly that period. I'll just let this go in the background so we have a little kind of soft soundtrack. But
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
all right, I'm just going to showcase my Who collection. Unfortunately, in '93, when I did my purge of about a third of my records because I was keeping CD, the better format, I got rid of most of my great original Who albums, and I could just kick myself. But a lot of people in my generation did that. So I do have a few loose odds and sods, as they say, which I'll even end up with odds and sods. But I did get a few years ago in 2015 or 2013, whatever, box set, remastered, pretty good. Still would rather have my originals, but it's good way to have the entire collection. I'll showcase these. I'd never had this album when it first came out. I got a copy in the early 70s, so I kind of skipped them. I'd buy their singles, my generation I got into, but only the 45, so I never knew this album originally. But this album, this is the album for me. To me, this is the perfect 60s pop mod album, and this is the album that really secured my love for The Who. It's my favorite Who album. I know a lot of people are into the 70s when they got more epic and stadium, but I'll go for Who's Sell Out any day over Who's Next. This came out in various iterations in the UK and America from '66, so this is actually out of order there. That was '67. Quick one where they really kind of Pete Townsend really got into the whole idea of doing mini rock operas in mini sections. So, good album, nice collection. Boris the Spider. Run, Run, Run. Anyway, Don't Look Away. So there you go. Now, this is the record that, you know, it's I hate to say it's their Sgt. Pepper because it's not fair. It almost goes beyond Sgt. Pepper. Rock opera, not really the first rock opera, but people, you know, kind of first popular rock opera. I mean, there's others like SF Sorrow by Pretty Things, but again, I saw The Who perform this in '69 at the Fillmore. I bought this record at a record store in a mall in San Francisco called Stonestown. There was a store named Portals to Music. Old school, old women worked there and had these listening booths in the back of the store. But a young guy worked there, and I didn't know who he was at the time exactly, but I would go in as a regular, and so we'd know each other by face. And if you know the band, the Flaming Groovies. Well, I knew the Flaming Groovies from their posters, from the Fillmore posters, the Avalon posters, but I'd never had heard them at the time. Well, the guy that sold me this record, is Roy Loney, who was the lead singer of the Flaming Groovies. And I remember that so vividly. He was so excited about this record. And I picked it up, I was gonna buy it anyway, so he didn't have to sell it to me. But he was telling me how great it was, and I don't remember if it was before or after the Fillmore show, but he was just raving about it. The irony is that years later, 10 years later, in 77, 78, I worked at ABC Records after I worked in record stores doing marketing there, and Roy Loney worked there, so I worked with Roy then, and then he was starting that second phase of his musical career with Roy Loney and the Phantom Movers. Anyway, that's sidestepping the story, but perfect album, in my opinion. To me, it beats the hell out of Quadrophenia, but I know Quadrophenia is a fan favorite, but I'll get to that in a minute. So, then we go Epic Rock, 1971, Who's Next? I know a lot of you in the VC and probably out there think this is their favorite album, or this is your favorite album of theirs. I get it. Cover by Ethan Russell, who also did the Beatles' Let It Be and a number of other great rock records at the time. I don't know what it is. I love this record a lot. I love the Epics, Won't Get Fooled Again, and Bob O'Reilly. Maybe it's too much CSI theme songs. CSI Vegas, CSI New York, CSI Turlock, CSI, you know, whatever. Great album, obviously. I'm not gonna diss it, but I pick Who's Next. I'm sorry, I'll pick Who's Sell Out any day. Quadrophenia. Now, I do like Quadrophenia a lot. It's grown on me over the years, but for some reason, I had a thing against it, and I think I got jaded by it because this came out when Coleman and I mentioned Coleman earlier, worked at the Warehouse Records, and we had stacks of this records, because I don't know if you remember Tower Records in the day, and a lot of record stores in the day that had a lot of copies. They would have boxes stacked of the record, and then an open box at the top, and the record you'd lift out of the box, and they'd have one standing up and you take it. For some reason, so many of these MCA records in America, this record, because it's a double album in the packaging, and Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, also on MCA. We got so many warped and defective copies. People would bring them and go through them, and it was a mess. So the imports are the one to get, and I had a couple, unfortunately I don't, so I'm going for my reissue box set. But I've grown to love this record, and obviously it's a great record. Who am I to say otherwise, right? You all know it. I don't really have to say anymore. So Quadrophenia. And then we get into the 70s. I'm going to go by these fast. You know, they didn't get as much love at the time from amongst my friends. And years later, obviously, songs like Who Are You became more famous in my eyes after the fact. I could be wrong about that. Same with this with Squeezebox. Squeezebox there was a video and it was a hit. You know, produced by Glyn Johns here. Both these produced by Glenn Johns. I mean, you know, good albums. But again, I'm a 60s modder in terms of my Who interest. Great cover, right? Bill Szymczyk, you know, produced this one, who produced some of the Eagles records. What a terrible cover. You know, it's hard. Give me a break. I don't know. I don't really like it. But and then this, the sort of the reunion album. This is like half a Who, right? Or is it 3/4 Who? You know, half a Who. I guess half a Who is either better than no Who, or it's a Dr. Seuss title, right? Horton, here's half a Who, isn't that it? So I'm going to go through just a couple other things, 2 records in particular. In the end, I mean, a couple of reissues. This came out a couple years ago, live at the Fillmore, '68. Really good, good recording. I pick live at Leeds over this one for a live thing. But what's great about this, the third LP, side 5 and 6, has My Generation. So basically, it's like a 33-minute version of My Generation. But you know, '68 Who is great Who. So, oh, did I forget this one? This is a reissue, also expanded. Has demos, some of Pete Townsend's demos, some mono versions of the album. The original mono mixes actually, and bonus mono, and Primal Scoop from Townsend's demos. If you know his series of Scoop records, his demos, they're really highly recommended. If you want to get deeper into an artist's creation, you see a lot of works in progress of the songs he worked with The Who and his solo records. But this is pretty good. And then there's the expanded Live at Leeds that came out, 3-record set. Won't get into much to that, but it has obviously a lot more. It has the entire Tommy performance, which pretty much what I saw at the Fillmore West. But I think, you know, there's nothing like the original Live at Leeds. This is a Track Records copy, not an original. I don't know what happened to my original, although I kept my original poster. This came with the poster, but this is the original one that I had in my room as a teenager. All yellowed, cut, staple holes. I tell you, I would have made a good archivist because I kept all this shit from when I was growing up. You know, except like everyone else, my mother kind of got rid of my Electric Train collection. I guess at least my record she didn't get rid of. But Who's Live at Leeds came with all these little inserts, contracts, tour contracts, itineraries, other pictures, postcard type little things like that. A delivery notice, smoke generators. Anyway, y'all need a copy of, God, I'm sounding like you Southerners now, y'all and Texans. Y'all need a copy of Live at Leeds, one of the great live rock and roll records. So, lastly, I'm going to end up with and again, I don't have a lot of deep, rare Who records anymore, unfortunately, but I'm going to end up with Odds and Sods. This is a record that came out in like '74, and what's great about it had a lot of alternate versions, B-sides, and one of my favorite things is Pure and Easy, and this is a Pete Townsend song that he recorded on his first solo album, Who's Next? And I love that album. Who's Next, the first Pete Townsend solo album. I'll take over any of those last 3 or 4 Who albums from the '70s by far. That's to be a perfect record. But I'm going to end up with this, and if we get clipped off, it'll be silent, and then we'll cut it off. But Mazzy thanks you, and 50 years ago, seeing the Who live. What a great time. I also saw them at Winterland, like '78 maybe? No, something like that. And I saw them in the '74, '75 show, at the Cow Palace where Keith Moon passed out. Jet lag, maybe? Who knows? What a crazy guy. But Keith Moon and I share the same birthday, August 23rd, so I love Keith Moon. Anyway, Mazzy loves you. Subscribe. Have a good time. Buy records. Subscribe. Make comments. Tell me your Who stories. It's the Who version of this song. Great recording. Get this record.
I listened and I heard music in a word, and words when you played your guitar. The noise that was here was an empty container, and a child who passed me riding in a star.
That's why we like rock and roll.
Civilization is trying to find a new way to die.
That part kicks ass.